So the 8424 looks like it's got a lot of routing capabilities. Can you just go through how I'd set a mix up on the console?
Okay, so I mentioned the dual input channel strip. Now, input A is a dedicated input for the DAW returns. This means that I don't have to disconnect recording inputs when I want to mix. The DAW returns connect by a simple D-type connection at the back of the audio interface, and I can switch globally to mix mode, which takes us to input A with this button, or record mode for input B, or I can do that on a channel by channel basis and decide which channels I want to return and mix and which ones I want to use for recording.
Now, are these trim levels independent? If I turn one, it's not going to affect my recording level as well, is it?
Yes, trim levels are independent of each other, and the stepped encoder works for both levels.
So these remind me of the digitally controlled 1073 encoders found on the Genesis and Genesis Black console. Does that mean that these are going to be automatically recalled?
Yes, just like the Genesis, each A and B trim level and direct out level can be saved, loaded automatically on a session by session basis.
And is the metering separate for each channel input?
Yes, the 8-stage LED gives accurate PPM metering for whichever input is selected, so your recording inputs can be metered there and your DAW returns.
Okay, so can you talk me through some of the send and routing options?
Yes, so the 8424 has 3 mono AUX sends and 1 stereo Cue send. Now these are great when mixing. You can use these to send out to external effects units. And we also have 2 stereo reverb returns, which allows you to bring back external FX signals without burning any precious console channels.
And I can see you've got insert switches on each channel for activating external pieces of hardware.
Yes, switchable inserts on all 24 channels allow you to connect all of your favorite outboard units directly to the console. We have a simple input TRS connection on the rear, so you don't have to use a patch bay, but you can use one if you wish. And we also have inserts on the groups and the stereo mix, allowing for some master processing.
And as well, we've got these routing buttons at the bottom of the channels.
Yes, each channel can be sent to the stereo mix or to any of the 4 mono groups or combinations. You can even create mono stems at the same time as creating a stereo mix with the group to pan function. So pushing this button allows the group routing to follow the pan control when creating stereo stems. When it's deactivated, your pan pot will not affect the group routing, and this allows you to create mono stems while you're creating a stereo mix at the same time.
Okay, so that's great for stem mixing, so I can sum and mix 24 DAW return signals through the console.
In fact, you can actually mix up to 48 at once. Now, we wanted this console to provide a vast amount of connectivity when mixing, so we added a function called 48 mix mode. Now, this function expands the console summing count to 48 mono channels. Each has their own level and pan control. I simply push the 48 mix button over here and all of the routing is taken care of. My stereo cues now return DAW returns 25 to 48. The solo system is linked together and the cue bus is routed to the stereo mix bus. So I have full 48 mix capability. I can also meter the additional DAW returns and switch the metering over to inputs 25 to 48.
That's an amazing feature. That's a lot of channels for such a small console. So that's going to be really difficult to try and burn through all these at once. So this is similar to the way inline mixing mode works.
Yes, 48 mix mode works in a similar way to inline mode, but instead of bringing DAW returns 1 to 24 back through the queue, we have a second input called input C. That's via D-type connection at the rear of the console. So using that, we're returning an additional 24 DAW returns through the console surface. We can even create a secondary master fader for that additional layer using the cue to group feature. This sends my cues down to groups 3 and 4, giving me total dual layer control, and I have a second stereo master fader that can take advantage of group processing, inserts and direct outputs.
Okay, so you mentioned I can send my DAW signal to the fader, I can send my DAW signal to the cue. What about at the same time?
Input A can be sent to the fader and to the cue at the same time, and that allows you to create some interesting parallel processing signal paths by using the channel inserts.
So I can add a compressor to the channel using the insert switch and then send the dry signal using the Cue Sends.
Yes, and you can choose where to add that insert, so I can add it either to the channel signal, or with this input C button I can choose to move the insert up to the cue signal path.